Warmly welcoming you to How Does She Do It, the podcast, with me, your host, Jo Ferroni. Join me on my journey as I explore finding a gentle balance in both business and life, because being kind to ourselves is our superpower. Hang on a moment, what am I doing? It's Thursday and I normally release on a Friday. Let me explain, ladies. I am very excited to bring to you tomorrow my conversation with Pam Cottman. It's a different one. It's really different, and I really urge you to tune in. First, though, I wanted to share with you the beginning of our chat that we had, because I feel it's worthy of an episode of its own. And that is because I feel at this time of year, in December, any year, not just this year, there can be an awful lot of perceived success and perfection out there. We're surrounded by it. We can't really sort of step away from it. But I do believe that what we see is not always 100% of what the truth is, because we're getting a snapshot, an insight into somebody's life, and we can then almost assume that everything's perfect for them. Why isn't it perfect for me? Why am I struggling with what I'm going through when it looks like everyone else is just having a wonderful time at parties with amazing decorations and life looks really amazing? But of course, that isn't always the full picture. And if I'd have known that I was going to make this a mini-sode, I probably would have continued the general conversation a little bit longer with Pam, because it was really interesting that we both shared very openly and honestly how we are right now and some things that we've been going through. But I do think it's worth sharing separately, and I do hope that it will offer you some solace just to hear two positive business owners speaking with openness and authenticity about where they find themselves right now in December 2021. Enjoy.
Let's just start with how you are doing on this slightly grey where I am looking morning. How's things in your life today?
Yeah, so we've just got into December, haven't we? And it feels all around me like there is a lot going on. It's a busy time, I'm going to use that word. And I am doing my absolute best to resist that need to jump on the busy train, because I know from past experience that it can feel incredibly overwhelming, and I just end up feeling so caught up in everything that I don't end up enjoying the run up to the end of the year and to Christmas. So I'm taking it gentle right now, actually. And I'm also resisting that urge to cram all those things in that perhaps I haven't achieved in the business, with that view, oh my goodness, it's the end of the year coming, I must get it done. And I've done that I've done it before. And I know I've sometimes worked on Christmas Eve trying to get those last emails out or what have you. And I've given myself permission to only do the things that absolutely have to be done, and to recognize that although January is a new year, it's not a lifetime, it's just a few weeks away.
I love that idea of giving ourselves permission. I'm sure everything you said is going to resonate with people listening about how busy life feels. And December often feels busy and can feel a bit frazzling for people as we rush to get things done by a deadline. I think that's the difference, isn't it? We're working to a deadline. But I'm also aware of how depleted people are feeling after the last 20, 21 months. Is that something you've been conscious of too?
Very much so. I'm feeling, I was making a decision yesterday actually, and I said, I don't know whether I should put something back actually in terms of a launch date for next year. Don't know whether I should put it back or whether I should just press on through. And she asked me, what does your heart say? And so I closed my eyes, held onto my heart, took a few breaths, and my answer, makes me feel a bit emotional, but my answer was, my heart is tired. I'm absolutely, I think you used the word depleted. I'm feeling quite depleted right now. We've had a lot of stuff going on personally, and it seems like everything in our life seems to have broken, including the expensive, the more expensive big things. And, that's not the end of the world at all. But when things keep coming up against you, you kind of get to the point where it's like, yeah, I need to just really, really work on looking after myself right now, actually. And I think that by doing that, then I'll be in a good place for my business and for my family and for myself. So I think that we all need to look back and see how much we have achieved this year. It might not have necessarily been on the same level that we might normally expect to achieve. And, in terms of my business, I haven't been doing any of my in-person work, which is not only a good part of my business, but it's also a really important part of my life as well. And that hasn't been there. But there are many other things that I have achieved or overcome, because we've all had different challenges, haven't we?
I think there's two things I really wanted to pause and recognize in what you said there. One was that wonderful question, what does my heart say? I think so often that you use the phrase, do I press on through? And so often we do that, don't we? I'll just keep going. And I love that question. What does my heart say? That allows you to just pause and check in with your own intuition. We ignore it sometimes, but it's so powerful and it's so right. And I love that that's what's enabled you to say, actually, what I need is to pause and to rest. And that piece around self-care is something that I know you feel so strongly about. You look at your website and you talk about balance. And I know in the last week you've been actively directing people towards podcast episodes around self-care, because we need it. We need that pause and that recognition that as women in business and in women with other things going on in our lives, we so often put ourselves at the bottom of the pile. And actually, to your point, we need to take care of ourselves first to enable us to be able to show up in any way, shape or form in the rest of our lives. So I'm sure that's a little gift that people are going to take away today. What does my heart say? As a really useful way of checking in with what's going on.
Yeah, it was valuable and so simple as well. It's almost too simple that you'd overlook it, because you're searching for the answer. What's the right thing to do? And you're thinking so much more with your head. Yeah, it was Jen Thomas, who I interviewed a few episodes ago, who said it to me, and a very valuable tool, which I will be using as I move forward. May I ask how things are going for you right now?
You can. I think that word depleted is definitely where I've been the last month and a half, actually longer than that, has been so, I think the best word is disrupted. So we had a period before October half term where my youngest, he's only 4, just started in reception, and he had a cough that had him off for a week. You wonder if it's anything more. It wasn't in the end, but obviously we were testing back and forth, and had my oldest off as well, just in case. And then he went back, got to half term and thought, right. And I remember sending an email to someone at the end of the first week of November saying, it's brilliant. Kids have had a whole week at school. Everyone's well. What was I thinking? What was I thinking?
The tempting fate thing.
Exactly. Oh. Yeah. So after half term and into November, my eldest got COVID. So he's 8. He was, asymptomatic. There just happened to be a flurry of cases in his class. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have checked. There was nothing to suggest there was an issue. And weirdly, none of the rest of us in the family got it. But we then had, the 10 days, 2 weeks of him being off school. And just, I think that question again, what does my heart need or what does my heart say? It was a real back to basics of what do I need to get done and what can I just let slide, because priorities shifted. And, back to having all of us in the house again in the same way that we were during lockdown. The space is really important to me in my diary. Physical space is important, and that all went out the window again. So again, those simple things, it was going back to those simple things of, okay, everyone, I just need 5 minutes to myself. I'm just going into a different room, or I'm just going to go and stick my headphones in and listen to a podcast, just something that gave me that space that was more difficult to access. So where I am today, I'm in the house, I'm on my own, there's nobody else here. That feels kind of magical. But I think everything you said around the run up to Christmas, and there definitely feels like there's been a shift as we've moved into December of that, oh my gosh, right. It's that deadline thing that I think is on my mind and making me feel a little bit more frazzled than I'd like. But, one of the things I'm going to do today is sit think about what is really important to me over the next few weeks and write some lists. Lists help me feel more in control.
Yeah.
And just make life feel a little bit more manageable. And really start to think, okay, what are the things that matter and what are the things that can let slide? So thank you for asking. That's where I am today.
I love that. Can I just pick up on one thing? When you do your little sit down today, something I read just this morning, I think it was this morning, from Louise Hay was, and this wasn't about Christmas actually, but I'm relating it to Christmas. I don't know about you, but I get my parents did Christmas brilliantly, like so well. My memories are so beautiful, and I have always, and this is probably getting a bit personal maybe, but I've always almost thought, well, I'm never as good as I never do it as well as they did it. I never did it. I've never done it quite so well. And what I read in Louise Hay's book this morning was to visualize how it's going to be in a good way, rather than, God, I hope I make it good enough, or negative stuff. So what I'm going to be doing at the beginning of this month now is to kind of sit down and think, right, I'm going to make this just how I want it to be and how it's going to feel really good. And that's good enough. And I think that's going to take a lot of this self-imposed pressure off me as well.
I really like that idea of, again, it is going back to what's important to you around the Christmas period. What does good look like for you? And something that occurred as you were talking, and I wonder if this will resonate with people listening too, is I wonder how much pressure there is associated with this Christmas in particular. If we think about how Christmas was so disrupted for so many people, and was really difficult for a lot of people, on one hand. On the other hand, it took a lot of pressure off. I know people who had hot dogs on Christmas Day because they didn't have to do turkey, because there was nobody else to bother about whether turkey was the right thing to do.
Yeah, we did a barbecue. We did a barbecue in the back garden, and we just thought, well, let's just do something completely different, and had a great old laugh. But there was no pressure because it was just us.
Yeah. And I do wonder how many of those things from last year people will say, actually, I want to carry on doing this year. And how many people will feel, well, I can't do it this year because of X. So I wonder if there's that moment of pause again around, what do I want Christmas to look like this year? And what are the things that I acknowledge will have to be different from last year? But what are the things that maybe I do want to hold on to because they were maybe starting a new tradition for our family?
Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, I'd love you to take a moment to share and subscribe too. Come and join me over at How Does She Do It Life on both Facebook and Instagram. And until we speak again, I wish you a wonderful week ahead.